Hey, this is Bill Lawrence.
Hello lovely people, this is Jeremy Swift, I play Leslie Higgins.
Hello, it's Nick Mohammed here, I play Nate.
Hannah Waddingham Calling, aka Rebecca Bolton, previously Mannion, aka Boss Bitch. I am so gutted that we're not there in person.
I just want to say I'm so sorry that we can't be there with you.
We're devastated that we can't be there tonight.
I'm so sorry that I can't be there.
Sadly, I can't be with you. We can't be with you.
Sorry we can't be there because of the whole thing.
Hopefully we will look back on this and go, bloody COVID.
Like, and I'm not just sorry. Like, I'm angry that we aren't allowed to be there. Like, I'm fuming. Like, I'm fucking furious. Like, I want to kill people. I want to burn this place to the fucking ground that we weren't allowed to be there to enjoy it with you. Anyway, I hope you have a lovely evening.
I just want to thank you for all your support. God bless you.
Thank you so much for all of your support for the show. It's a truly wonderful show to be a part of.
I hope you have a lovely evening.
Please have a great night.
I hope you have a great night and sending you lots and lots and lots of love.
Thank you so much for your support in season 1. It meant the world to all of us. And here's to a much loved season 2. And we will return and see you in the flesh and have a squeeze. Lots of love. Stay well.
I'm Jill Riley. I'm an editor at Variety. I'm your moderator tonight. I'm also a Ted Lasso super fan. My whole family is. We have jerseys and everything. Thank you so much for being here for us with this Q&A. As the fellow cast member said, they're sorry they couldn't be here today, but we do have with us co-creators. They also write on the show. Jason has also directed some episodes.
No,
not
true.
Not
I'm just bossy. Particularly. No, never direct anything, but no.
And you also star as well. And I'm pretty sure you run craft services in your free
Yeah,
time.
do a little cooking. Yeah, here and there. Yeah, absolutely.
So Jason Sudeikis and Brendan Hunt, thank you so much for being here. So before we get into Ted Lasso, I actually want to go back because I know you two have known each other a really long time. When did you first meet and what was sort of your initial reaction to each other?
Yeah, I mean, what year, do you remember?
It was 97 or 98.
Yeah.
Well, we were living in different cities, but we were both in the same improv group. It's called Comedy Sports, and it's in different towns. And mine was in Chicago, and we're back behind our theater. And it's not like a glamorous show. It's like a fake sports thing where you wear a red shirt and you're improv competing against a team with a blue shirt, and you're all wearing baseball pants, and there's a referee, and you're not allowed to swear. And it's for like 30 people, and behind the theater there's a little patch of grass where before the show, zip zap zap, zip zap zap. And then one day, our glamorous state is further deglamorized by a Volvo station wagon that pulls up and just pushes us out of our grassy space, and 2 very tired guys from Kansas City got out of it wearing the same shirts we were wearing, and that was Jason and our buddy Ed Goodman, who you know as well. Like, I guess they're doing the show with us. No one told many of us, but okay, fine. We'll see what they got. Turns out he's pretty funny, this guy, as was Ed. And yeah, it's. I mean, if you're gonna like walk in and do a show, improv's the show to just walk in and do. There's less choreography, but it's still not that easy to do with people you don't know, and you know they both blew the doors off the place. I mean, it's a very small place. The doors are close by, but it was pretty damn fun.
Yeah. That's how I remember it more or less. And it had to be 97 because we moved there in 97. I moved there in September 97. That was like a few months earlier, so it was probably early 97.
And that was literally the drive up that was the move, yes? I believe?
For Ed, I think. No, I think I then came back, a few months later. But yeah, it was that. I feel like I saw you before, because I know I would go up there and not necessarily playing the show, but I remember Brendan was always very, very funny. Less facial hair at that point. And so yeah, but you know, I'll go with that origin story. That makes it seem really cool.
No, this is a great meet cute, honestly.
A great what?
A meet cute.
Yeah, it's an absolute meet cute. Yeah, it really is.
So all these years later, what do you sort of think the secret is to your successful partnership?
I let Brendan be Brendan. I don't know, like.
We both love Red Sox, but we hate the Red Sox. So
Was this planned? Did you coordinate this?
No, it doesn't have to be planned. It just happens. Yeah. I don't. I grew up always gravitating towards really, funny, talented friends, and so then by the time I was in my 20s, I got really good at that, and I just really found, the funniest, most talented people that I just tried to keep up with them, and so Brendan was the Chicago version of that.
we did find out later, though, that though neither of us are South Side of Chicago Irishmen, we are both the children of South Side of Chicago Irish families.
Really?
Who apparently knew each other, but we didn't know this until like a year ago.
Yeah.
You're kidding.
Yeah.
Do they get, I don't know if they're still with us, do they get along, or is it fisticuffs?
Didn't know each other that well.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. There's not a feud. There's not Bloods and Crips.
There's still time to start on it.
Absolutely. Yeah. We'll see how season 3 negotiations go.
I'm clearly trying to write a screenplay here. You have a meet cute, you have parents who don't get along, I've played it all out in my mind and cast you both.
Yeah. It's the Fantastics with no singing. I got you. I'm with you.
So I think Ted Lasso, the character in the show, has one of the most unique origin stories because you created him for a series of sports promos. Did you ever imagine he'd have a life beyond that?
I mean, at some point, that's why it exists. Because but not at that point. And it wasn't even a series. It was one commercial. Yeah, NBC Sports, had just procured the Premier League, which is the NBA or NFL of professional soccer in the UK, and they approached me because I played various coaches on Saturday Night Live. And they had a few different, like 5 different premises. This ad agency called Brooklyn Brothers, run by 2 guys, neither of which were from Brooklyn, nor brothers.
Liars, basically.
Liars, yeah.
Damn liars.
Yeah, Mad Men. We all saw Mad Men. They're just liars. And the one that stuck out was like an American football coach coaching that, and they had it more being a yelling, screaming, kind of like Bobby Knight, kind of like that kind of rabble-rouser coach. And I was like, what about this? And then they're like, okay, great. And then it was like, okay, can I bring on writers? And I knew at that point it was our buddy Joe Kelly, who we had worked together with at that stage. Boom Chicago and Amsterdam. I had worked with them at Second City in Las Vegas, and a little bit of time in Chicago, and then at Saturday Night Live. And then Brendan, because Brendan knew everything about soccer.
Yes.
Joe knew a little bit about football and soccer. Brendan knew a lot about soccer and football, and then I knew nothing. So, following my grand tradition of being the dumbest person in any room, or attempting to be, I lived up to it, and they said yes. And then I remember we were living on Nichols Canyon, and we had a pool and we did a day of writing, and we filled up like one sheet of paper with like a bunch of beats, and then we showed up to London, and we were working with the Tottenham Hotspurs, which was a big time team, and we just like sort of improvised. We knew the jokes, we knew the beats. We had a great director, Marty Granger, who was a Second City alum in Toronto, so he was familiar with like improv as a process to write. And then we would go and do takes, and then me, Joe, and Brendan would then go into this like little Sprinter van that we had nearby. We'd go in there and we'd play Settlers of Catan. While evidently my manager can attest to this, Jeff Chetty from Brillstein, he was out there talking to like the Tottenham people and the NBC people, going, "What is going on? Like, we don't like. This is like a multi-million-dollar campaign, and there's no scripts, and we don't know what's going on and what's going on." And Jeff's like, "Hey, don't worry about it. They got it figured out." And meanwhile, I'm just like, "Don't roll a 7. Don't get the robber. You need sheep for wood.
Too many sheep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean everybody. There's abundance of sheep. You know how the game goes. I was on a 6 and an 8 on a sheep on a meadow. It's like, what a dumb fucking idiot I was. Anyway, lo and behold, and then the commercial did well. Am I missing that? I mean, who won that game? Do you remember?
Let's say me.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, the commercial did nuts for them. Like they won some award that you win in Cannes for awards. for ads.
But football people liked it, soccer people liked it, comedy people liked it. Like we were trying to hit a very specific target amongst the three of us intentionally, and then it happened, and that let us do that. That success allowed us to do. Well, I mean, we had to approach them. Hey, we'd love to do another one. They're like, great, but we're not taking it to London this time. It's like, all right. So that kind of made what was Ted's journey upon returning back to America after getting fired in that first commercial. He ended up loving his time in the UK, and I believe that that's what unlocked the notion of Ted being enthusiastic and optimistic, truly. And he ends up then coaching a young girls soccer team, and just falling in love and just sort of like the weeble wobble chumbawamba energy of him getting knocked down and getting back up again just sort of was unlocked in that second commercial, and that one did well too.
And we found out while we were making that second one that the first one, which we kind of made as though we were English people making fun of Americans on some level, but it was for an American audience.
Yes.
But we found out, according to some random person who may have been lying, but I've run with it ever since, that apparently those spots, which were on YouTube or whatever, were watched as much or nearly as much in the UK as they had been in America, which was the actual target audience. And then we had Tim Howard, an American goalkeeper who was playing in England at the time for Everton. And we asked him if he'd seen it, and he was like, oh yeah, 1,000 times. We watched him in the locker room. They watch these in Premier League locker room?
Yeah. I forget, who was the guy that had that great line? We did the thing that we went to and announced the teams. I forget what it was called.
The Champions Cup. Yeah.
The Champions Cup. And this Brit guy, that's not my bag. He's remembering stuff.
So I remember the guy. I can't remember his name.
Do you remember the guy though? But he had this great line. He goes, he's a British guy, and my British accent is meek. And he's like, "You did everything wrong perfectly." And we're just like, "Oh, what a nice way to put it." But yeah, and then notice that people like Terry Henry and Steve Nash and all these athletes. It had this following to it that people dressed up like Ted for Halloween, like 6 people, like not a ton, but enough to get back to me. People I didn't know. Now they're very close friends, but yeah, it was surprising, and then cut to what is it? That was 2014, and hurry up and wait. Here we are.
Wow.
Yeah.
The first time I saw Ted Lasso, I thought you were channeling a little bit of Ned Flanders. I think it's just a mustache.
Oh, yeah.
But then I remembered one of my all-time favorite Saturday Night Live sketches is Coach Burke with Steve Buscemi.
Yes.
And I feel like there's a little Ted Lasso in the coach you play in that. This is a sketch where Steve Buscemi has investigated and no one believes he's not a pedophile.
Yes.
And it actually is so good and walks such. I don't know if you could do it today, but it is. And it's basically like Ted Lasso saying I'm as surprised as you are.
I am. Yeah. I mean, there's so much that my 8 years there, 10 years there in total, 2 writing 8, that I can watch an episode of SNL and be like, wait a minute. I don't remember this. So I forgot about Coach Burke.
Coach Burke.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Steve Buscemi. Yeah.
Yeah. I just asked Steve Buscemi about it the other day.
That's amazing.
And Pete Davidson said it's one of his all-time favorite sketches.
Hilarious. No, I gotta rewatch that. I gotta join Peacock. I hope you just turn on the TV and the shit was there. I gotta learn how to use a QR code thing.
So many aspects.
Yeah.
I have to think though, because you're a wonderful actor, but you're specifically a very good dramatic actor. Colossal is a phenomenal performance. And I'm curious about going from something like that to playing someone like Ted Lasso. I think it would have to affect you. You'd have to be kind of joyous being Ted.
Yes, So in Colossal, I play a real toxic dude, and it's a little bit of a spoiler, but worth it. It's me again trying to keep up with Anne Hathaway and Nacho Vigalondo. This is brilliant writer director.
Brilliant.
And yeah, that playing that character, that type of character, or type of character who's maybe losing someone or having lost someone, or you spend that all day, and you're just yourself. I mean, I'm not David Day-Lewis, or I'm not trained in method acting, but when you pretend to do that all day and keep those thoughts bouncing around and coursing through your veins, yeah, it does affect you, and it takes a certain amount of whiskey, weed, and pinball to get it out of you. And I got it down to I could get it out of me in 15 minutes with a good sativa strain. But playing Ted, it was just something that we just, again, in that first commercial, it's just improvising jokes and just lines just sort of come to you. It's a worldview that is a pleasant one to exist in, and it's not one that's unfamiliar to me. But the words and the feel just sort of come to me personally, and just knowing, and then he's just supportive. He's just supportive. So it is really that improv background of yes and of seeing something, saying yes, and adding to it, and supporting, and not judging, and egolessness, and all that, and so it makes, when you bounce off someone, especially someone as talented as Brendan and as smart as Brendan, it makes it, it goes from being, Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel to a Simon and Garfunkel. It becomes one and one becomes three, and so that's sort of the trick, and we just try to do that with all the characters, just pair them up, in different ways, and part of the fun and an exercise Bill Lawrence would have us do in the writers' room, and it was even more fun for the second season, because you could kind of the invisible was now visible, where people had seen it and everybody knew what was going on, and the actors knew what the roles were, and so then you could really see that vibration, that ping pong match amongst any of the pairings.
And Brendan, Coach Beard, we love what we know about him. We know he's loyal, we know he's smart, but people are really fascinated by his character. They want to know more. Have you read some of the theories about, Coach Beard's childhood and what his agenda is? And will we learn more in season 2?
Weirdly, we have a whole episode about his childhood and his agenda. So
we're gonna get sued?
Bullshit.
I don't know.
I mean, it's cool that people are wondering, but they wonder because he's mysterious. And if we make him less mysterious, then they're going to stop wondering, and that's just not as fun. But yeah, weirdly, in the writers' room from the first season on, it became what's this dude's deal? And not even particularly from us, but from Jane and Jamie. And we had all these side bits prepared that we never made of one day Ted's at the bar, and behind him on the TV, but Ted doesn't notice, Beard is winning a darts competition. And if he's going to complain about his girlfriend was going to be Elizabeth Hurley, played by Elizabeth Hurley.
Tough get season 1. She's what is this show? No, thank you. I'm Elizabeth Hurley. Yeah.
So, but all these things would have made him less mysterious. So I'm glad we turned him down. But it's certainly fun that people are trying to figure him out so much.
And I don't know if you can answer this. Maybe you're right. Maybe the mystery is good. But is his name really Beard, or is it just because he has a beard?
It's exactly one of the questions we cannot answer. We just do not know. Is it because he's named Beard? Is it because he has a beard? Or is it because he's Ted's pretend friend that has a special quality?
This is like a Beautiful Mind scenario. You're not even there.
Yeah. I've heard that theory. Yes, that theory is out there. But other people besides Ted refer to me. Yeah. Also, spoiler on Beautiful Mind. Yeah. Paul Brittany's not there.
You've had 20 years. I feel okay about that.
Yeah. Show up. Do your homework, people. Watch your Ron Howard movies, for God's sake. Ron Howard, right?
Yep. Winner for that movie.
Yeah. From Happy Days.
Yes, but he didn't win an Academy Award for Happy Days.
Not yet.
Okay. And you obviously do have the best ensemble on television. This is such an amazing cast from top to bottom. I mean, where did you even start, or was it all sort of happening at once? And everyone's fallen in love with everyone, but specifically Hannah Waddingham, who I know from stage.
Yep.
Yeah, and it's so exciting to see in a series every week.
Yeah, I mean, we had, Apple was ready, for us to hook a big fish, and we went to a few people we had in mind when initially writing, and then everybody was busy doing other things, and and didn't know what we were doing or who we were, so but they were busy. I'll go with that. That is their reason that they didn't do it. Not because they weren't interested or could care less about us. But and then we watched a bunch of tapes, and our cast director in the UK, a woman named Theo Park, who was recommended to us by Allison Jones. I was like, hey, if you were doing a show, who do you recommend? And Allison was like, Theo Park. And so then Brennan and I went out there, and I read with six women, and we thought we had found maybe a couple viable options. Then we bring those tapes home, and when you're in the experience, especially like for me, it's as much of an audition, me auditioning for them as like the way we sort of talk and the way we would talk about the character and whatnot. So there becomes that level of quick intimacy where you want to feel a connection. So then you maybe get a different vibe than it just comes across on an audition tape or like thumb drive, whatever it is now. And we take it to the writers' room, and we're 12 people, and nobody really passed the dial test.
Not one of the six who I'd say four of which we really liked.
Yeah.
Not one of them hit in the writers' room, and it was shocking.
Yeah, it was a real loss of innocence. And we're like, how do we hire these duds as writers? Really.
Yeah. So then we hired the writing staff. Now.
Yeah. But do we? I was asked Hannah this today when doing press. Did we watch a video of her? We were.
No. Then because that day, being bummed about how that went, I just happened to talk to a friend of mine who I know from college, an actor around town, some of you know maybe, named Todd Stashwick, who's a real good dude. And talking to Todd about, he's like, what's going on with you? I was just in England doing this thing, trying to cast this part, didn't go great. He's like, well, what's the part? And I explained it all to him. And he listened patiently, and at the end he says, Hannah Waddingham. What? Hannah Waddingham. Trust me, she's exactly what you're looking for. She's amazing. Also, she will drink after work. Hannah Waddingham. Okay. 3 days later, Theo sends us video of Hannah's audition, and I think 2 days after that, you guys were testing together.
Yeah, she flew out, and we were at Warner Brothers, and I read with her, and I walked in, and we're the same height, and then in heels, she's 3 inches taller than me, and she was worried about that. I wasn't, because I was like, as a former point guard on a basketball team, I used to be in the short one, even though as an actor I'm fairly tall, and she was worried about it, but it worked for the character, and it was just like it did not phase. And then in explaining things to her, because Apple, she didn't even read the full script, because with Apple's, I guess they do other things besides TV shows that they are concerned about leaks and whatnot, and so they did that with the material too. So she only read the scenes, the audition scenes. So then I was sort of explaining things to her, and then there are elements of the character and the story and the backstory, things that sort of get explored, a little bit towards the end of the season and more so throughout the other the upcoming season, that she just understood. I could see it in her eyes that she understood, and then she read it and she crushed it. And then I remember that that night or that day, because it was like an hour and a half or whatever, and I think she mentioned then that or I had heard that she was singing and done Broadway and Lady of the Lake and Spamalot and played the Wicked Witch of the West and Andrew Lloyd Webber's Wizard of Oz and like legit badass West End ingenue and matriarch and whatever the appropriate terms are, and I was like, okay, all right, good, because we knew there was a karaoke element of the of an episode, so I was like, oh great, okay, good. That all worked out, and then it was done. We didn't look for anybody else, and that happened a lot. That happened a lot with the cast. I mean, Jeremy Swift, as Higgins, was a fan favorite right off the bat. I think Nick Muhammad, who plays Nathan, was someone we wanted as Nathan right away. And at first,
he auditioned for Higgins first.
Exactly, yeah, because he had sort of played, because he had played a similar energy. Maybe I haven't seen Intelligence. Is there any overlap there?
Well, the overlap is that he is a underling of a sort to an American. So his reps right away when we said please read for Nathan. They're like, well, he's played similar parts, which is no, that's not true. He's played in a show that has in America. We now realize, but I had seen Nick at a show he had written for himself in Edinburgh in 2007, and so when he came across as Higgins on some tapes, I was like, this guy. this guy's great, and we got to get him for Nate. And we had to like cajole his reps and letting him do it. And then he finally does, but he's in the middle of filming Intelligence at the time. And so he was supposed to do 3 scenes. He did 1 on his lunch break, and absolutely killed it. It was immediately, what's the word? Just capable. He's just so good at comedy and the way he does it. And so he was named right away.
Yeah, just a very specific way and like timing and rhythm. Like an instrument, you're just like, oh, I want that in the band. It's like we got to write songs around that. Got to write songs around the vibra slap now. Great. Okay. I guess we're doing that. Vibra slap is that thing.
Shout out to Cake.
Okay, anyway. Shout out to Cake. Yeah, Cake used the vibra slap a lot. The slide whistle. Maybe that would have been a better. And then the only, and then like, Trent Krim, James Lance, he was just someone that it was like, oh, if Pixar were to make Trent Krim, it would look like James Lance, and then his voice is perfect, and it's just like, Brett's story is out there. Brett was, a writer and writer on the show, still is, very good writer, producer, and he just understood the Roy Kent character and submitted himself a tape and was like, if it stinks, we don't have to talk about it ever again.
When he was leaving town, because he only did like half the writer's room, and I was like, all right, leaving today, see you guys later, and then we found out he'd sent this email.
Yeah. The only person that was an offer only in the cast was Juno.
That was my guess.
Yeah.
Which is actually kind of surprising because by her own admission, she's not really known for comedy. She's known for deep, deep tragedy.
Yeah, but I had done karaoke with her when her and Olivia had done Vinyl. And so I saw, we watched a bunch of people, but there's a level of that character that sometimes comedy folks weren't always when someone has been praised or sort of they had their foot into the door, and I'm talking about more the Keeley character than Juno specifically, for their external appearance, there can sometimes be a little bit of inherent judgment in the way a comedy person plays that role. And so we were watching very capable comedy people that could hit the joke, but it didn't feel real, and it felt like stepped out of, in my opinion, especially when you watch it with the sound off, it felt like, oh, they're not in it. And that character needed to be of that, and so it didn't matter to me that she didn't do jokes, because the jokes are we have a group of people that write the jokes, and she just played things real. And I knew it the second I saw her name on a sheet of paper of British actresses who were living in the States. I was like, oh, it's Juno. And then I reached out to her, got her number from Olivia, then texted her, and she knew me, and I sent her the script, and we met up somewhere here in LA and just talked her through the first season arc and her relationship with Keeley, Rebecca, the love triangle and all that. And she was, in a very sweet way, very flattered and yet confused. And I was like, don't worry about the comedy. It's just, you gotta play it real. Just play it real. And so, there's very few people that can play it more real than Juno Temple.
I mean, and I have to say that when you come into a new show, you have certain expectations. And I saw the Keeley character, and I was like, okay, I know what this character is.
Yeah.
And she has surprised me at every turn.
Yeah.
And her relationship with Rebecca is one of my favorite things on TV.
Me too. I know I had a hand in it, but I watched those two do it. That's why I was sitting over here watching. I haven't watched the pilot that we were watching over there, and I haven't watched the pilot forever. And then 107, that episode, which is really a breakthrough moment for them, and then when Sassy comes into the mix. And that's how they are in real life now too. Because that's just one of those things that you do is you just pay attention, you keep. Del Close is an improv guru that I had in Chicago, would always talk about, part of improv, and I think it's part of writing too, and just being an artist or a human being, is jazz drummers have big ears. They hear when the changes happen. They hear modulations and things and behavior and the way people speak. And you don't want to be a parasite or take something from someone's essence and commodify it and co-opt it. But when it's something so positive and so joyful and so pure, you can't help but sort of be like, hey, we're going to do elements of that and just. I can't say we write better dialogue because they're really fun and interesting and curious as a duo, and discovering that own relationship that then gets sort of dramatized, you know, in the show. But yeah, it's neat to watch them work. I think that's something that I mean, you know, I feel like that's one of those things that surprised Joe too. I remember Joe and I talking about, like, as the final edits of like episodes 8, 9, and 10. He's like, I didn't realize that the Keely-Rebecca relationship was going to be one of my favorite parts of the show. And it's like the part of me that loves Sex and the City. Like that episode is me trying to write an episode of Sex and the City in many ways, especially with the three of them. And like, you know, I don't smoke anymore, yet you're still on fire. I mean, then for me, that's just like, you know, taking the essence of Michael Patrick King moment. Just saying, like, I'll put that on here.
Good News, Sex and the City is coming back, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I feel the same way.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, you know, but without Samantha?
Yeah.
All right, well, there's probably some scuttlebutt there.
So the two of you were watching